And sometimes I look back and I was like, whoa, these parents really trusted me. Like, I mean, what did I tell them which kind of made them trust and put their child into school, because I wasn't from the field at all.
So I went on Zameen.com, randomly selected a property and called up the agent. We went on a tour and that was the beginning of our red gate.
Once we have grade 1, so there's no stopping. We somehow find people who just fit in like a glove in VLC.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I caught a fish alive.
चीज़केक अच्छा था और अब क्या बताऊँ?
VLC!
Those personal connections, I think, are the things that are what really makes it, because feeling like you're heard and feeling like, you know, even a personal struggle or personal challenge can be shared and actually like taken into consideration.
I could like come here and like be the kind of teacher I wanted to be. Like I wouldn't be so confined by like structure. Like I hate using the word structure. I mean, there is structure, but it's not the kind that like box you in.
There's a buzzword for VLC, open door policy. So it's not only for the parents and the children, it's for the teachers also. We can like just open the door of any management, any senior person, we can talk to them and we can talk about anything, anyway. And they are always there to listen, always.
One of the features that set VLC apart at that time was to have an open door policy, and Muzaffar was very confident and very adamant that he was going to go ahead with this, because that was something that he wanted to interact with all parents, he wanted to interact with everybody, and that open door policy meant that he would be available at every time, and that was taken to a very different level by a lot of people, and that's understandable because that came with their expectation. So there would be times when we would be on a holiday and we would get a barrage of messages from parents or emails that would be really triggering, or they would upset us. A lot of times we had to cancel some dinner plans because, you know, Muzaffar received an email that would upset him, and we're like, okay, let's address that first now. A lot of times Muzaffar missed out on important meetings of our daughter, and that progressively has been the case, you know, over the last 7 years. And in between, when VLC started, we had 1 child, and now we have 3 children. And many times Muzaffar was just not available to come for his own kids' parent-teacher meetings or school trips or other events, because he would be attending to either a parent or a school event. So the challenges, there have been many sacrifices that we have had to put in. We really I had to take a step back also and, give him that space.
One of my biggest, so to say, thought process here has been, and this is not, it is by design, but also by intention, that when we are saying that we want to create safe spaces for kids, and if the teachers do not feel safe, I mean, there's something is mismatching, right? So our inwards and outwards are not matching. So for us, a lot of my, focus has been to make sure that this is a safe space for our teachers as well. These measures, a lot of these active intentions, which we took as a way of principle, as part of our philosophy, has repaid many folds, because now the teachers feel a lot safer, and when they feel safer, they feel a lot of sense of ownership, and they're really empowered. I would like to believe that there's a lot of autonomy which is given to them. And that's the culture. So our secret sauce is our culture.
That's where the creativity comes in, and now you can, create opportunities for them to do a lot more than just writing with pencil on a paper. You can do a lot more. You can use all senses and immerse them into sensory play, and give them a lot of stuff to explore. So it was a very different experience in that terms.
When we started, it was something really radical. Muzaffar had a dream. I shared that dream. We wanted to raise children who had the resources that we didn't have growing up. And he came to me and he said that want to do mindfulness for children. And the first thing that I said that I don't teach children. I also said to him that I'm not a school teacher. And then he said something that, let's experiment, so creativity, a big one, and then trust, because he said to me that I trust you. let's experiment, let's do this. And this is the one thing that lets me stay at VLC. It's the trust. It's the trust and also the permission to be authentic.
I think this idea of trust kind of does help, but it threw me off at first. Again, coming from, same, not want to use a structured word, coming from other, institutions, the whole thing was that you tell me what to teach, I will teach, right? I'm using my method, I'm using your curriculum, your content. And then I came here and they said, teach the class. And I was like, okay, where's the material? You should have it. Okay, I had the material. I'm like, are you sure? That's my thing. I'm like, are you sure? Yeah, you do it. We know you do it. And I'm like, but you just met me like a month ago. How do you know I'm going to do it? I don't know if I'm going to do it. And the ideology and the somewhat underlying theme that was there was like, do what you feel you need to do. And if me or you feel like something you could work on, then you just improve that. Improve the process if you can.
The biggest challenge for me is getting in touch with my heart. The one thing that I had already been doing throughout my life was just making sure that I was logical and reasonable, and calculated. VLC sort of shook me up. It asked me to sort of listen to my heart. And I did. And that's where you sort of find the child in you, and it's such a beautiful way of being whole. We spend most of our lives sort of making strategies and being
The tick marks.
yeah, so you spend your life on a task list, and VLC sort of stops you and brings you in the here and now, and it gives you perspective on who you are. I mean, for me personally, I got to look inward and I got to thinking, who do I want to be as an individual, not just as a professional, and that sort of set the tone for me for who I want to be as a father, as a parent, And I don't think that these were things that I was ever sort of thinking about while I was working in different spaces. So yeah, so my aha moment was feeling my heart. Yeah.
I mean, I've worked at other places as well, but I've never felt so much as home as I do at VLC. It's like, your tribe, your kind of people here, all crazy. As the teachers just put it, we are all crazy here. Only crazy people can be at VLC.
I think March 2019 was when we decided that we are going to take the green building. And we spent like crazy summer screaming and fighting on how we need to renovate the building, which we did. And we opened the building in August 2019, and everything was going very, very well. Teachers were happy, we were happy. And then February 2020, we do a Snap Fest where the food court and the drum circle and the music area was in the green gate. I didn't see Muzaffar a lot that day, but in the passing, we met and he said कि बहुत अच्छा हो रहा है, मगर लोग बहुत तारीफ कर रहे हैं, क्या करें, नज़र ना लग जाए. तो मैंने कहा कि नहीं, इंशाल्लाह कुछ नहीं होगा. 26 February, the government announces lockdown for COVID. Nobody knew what COVID was, but कुछ होता है, COVID आ गया है, जिसकी वजह से पाकिस्तान बंद हो गया है.
I think 2020 was a time when a lot of our values were put to test. 2020 was a time when, a lot of my personal attachment with VLC was also put to test. March 2020, so I think the lockdown was 20th March 2020, and literally a week before, we started talking about Corona and Corona aa raha hai, magar, no one really imagined that it was going to be like something which was going to last for so long. And March is the time when we started looking at our, August academic year planning. So that's the time when we had just signed a lease for the Blue Gate. A new property we've just taken on board, and a week after that, the lockdown started. And of course, there is no renovation work which can take place. Everything is shut down. We're not coming to work. Schools are shut down, and all of a sudden, there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear has started to creep in, right? And as the leader of this organization, I kind of felt myself that I recognized that I'm also holding space for all this fear and all this uncertainty. And as a human, I'm also feeling a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty, right? So I think that was COVID has been the biggest teacher, because that's the time when we really had to step back and be like, focus on the why. Why are we in existence? And we kind of pivoted. I mean, VLC stopped being a school at that time, and it became like a community center. It became a community center because we kind of realized that at this time, parents are scared and they need our support, and the teachers are scared and they need our support as well. So we kind of took a lot of our focus was on connection. So through it, be it through the webinars, the wellness series, we kind of preempted that what are the parents missing right now, right? Couples were living together, working from home was the new norm. So they needed some help in how to cope with it. The kids were, really missing their friends. So, having like small things that teach are making phone calls, right? So the power of connection and the power of community.
Hi everyone, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Hello great one, how are you? We miss you so much. Oh my God, it has been such a long time that we haven't seen you.
I miss all of you so much. I miss having all of you around.
Innovation took a new meaning for us. So for example, we realized that parents are not going to come send a 2-year-old on an online Zoom class. So we had to come up with a lot of flexible solutions for them, and at the same time, as an entrepreneur, as an organization which is only 3 years old, we've just taken up this new property. Liquidity was a bit of was a big fear. Right, and in fact, when I was sitting with the finance team, we did an analysis, and we said that this was sometime in June, and that's the time when we had cut down our tuition fee as well to support the parents. A lot of parents were not paying the fee on time as well, and I don't blame them. But yes, there was a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty. Admissions had halted. And we kind of did a calculation by saying that we only have liquidity till December, right?
And then COVID happened. Those 2-3 weeks, we were just trying to figure out what COVID is. That just seemed like, that was much needed break after all the hustle, bustle and all of that. 2 weeks, 3 weeks of staying at home. And then that's when the Red Gate room happened, remember? the COVID room, we had to let go of that old Green Gate property. And those hard decisions, they were difficult ones. And then I think that impacted all of us to kind of understand the bigger picture of how COVID was impacting VLC was during those meetings and when we had to let go of the Green Gate property.
Laptop. Sabine here with her laptop, me here with my laptop, Munira here with her laptop, Shireen in the corner, Zishan, Hamza.
Israr was also there.
Yeah, he was there. Finance was there.
It's funny how during COVID, when we're talking about social distancing, we all came together to sit together in one room.
And I think our check was SK constantly reminding us to wear a mask, keep that distance.
Yes. Yeah, it was a big process. COVID was like a big process of learning and relearning. I think things were changing every week, do this week, do something else next week. And as soon as we would get settled into one way of teaching and learning in 1 week, we would change it the next week. So
It was really like tumultuous, and it was just one of the most like volatile times in my teaching career, I think.
I am a performer, I'm a musician. I need people to be there in person. What do I do when there's a screen now and they're far away? I remember this one, I tell a funny story about it. I do Baby Shark, for the kids, and I went like, run away. All the kids got up and ran away, and nobody came back. And base minute I sat there in the class, texting Sabine, what do I do? They all gone. So what did you do? I'm like, I just sang run away. They ran and come back. Because the speaker doesn't carry that far in the house. And that day, I honestly felt so bad. I said, I'm not a good teacher. I couldn't get the kids to sit. They ran away, legit. And then I think as the system grew, I kind of, used different methods and clapping and said, why don't you guys follow me?
And we started improvising.
Yeah.
You did being them in front of the screen rather than going in.
No, I remember you, Kiran, and a couple of other teachers would sit and have their cameras on, and they would do the actions because the kids knew a familiar face as the teachers.
So I remember the first day I joined in, we had a class of, I guess, 23 kids, and only 2 kids showed up. And I was like, inko kaise padhaun main? But then, struggling with technical glitches and, kids running away and the mothers running after, breakfast kha lo, ye kar lo. And then, I'm teaching and suddenly the father comes up and says, AC off karo. Like, what do I do? Like, how do I...
sleeping on screen.
Yeah. So, those were little struggles. And then, moving forward, there would be only one student. I'm like, I have to, take that class. And I think it was a funny time.
What the teachers did that year, from April till the 24th of July, they did not stop teaching. April, May, June and July. 24th July was when we had a drive-through graduation, something very unique again. That was Muzaffar who came up with this idea, and they all agreed and we all were there, and this whole road was VLC, and the teachers were standing as per the directions of the government apart from each other in a circle, and the students drove through with their parents, and there were pictures taken inside the cars. And but the teachers, what they did in that summer was beyond the call of duty.
Talking about COVID and what kind of got us through was, I think, just that bond that we created amongst each other, because without that, nothing would have been possible. If we were not able to fight and argue and discuss and come to conclusions and then say this is what's best for what we think will work the best. Even though not everyone agreed, eventually we all got on the same page and pulled it. If it didn't work, let's go to plan B and see what happens next. And just working together is what kind of got us through that time, and being creative with whatever we could do, and making sure we continued that community bond and kept the parents in the loop as well, and not just leave them on their own either. And a lot of customization, I think, of like every single family's different situation and issues, and trying to cater to that. That's, I think, what kind of helped us all pull through at that time.
So from 300, we went to 600 in COVID, like in less than 16 months. And that was growth which we were not prepared for. We were not expecting, right? And that in itself was a beautiful experience, a very, very challenging experience. It really stretched us. And I felt that I really needed that experience, that fear, to experience the fear and let go of the fear, to really evolve my own leadership style, to then be able to contain a bigger community of parents, of teachers, of students, of management. And that's where, I think something shifted and growth became like, oh, we're growing really fast. It's not that either they get A grade or they become whole people. It's and.
We are heading into a very different world right now with ChatGPT, AI coming in. So they need to have exposure to a lot of life skills.
So they were also digesting that growth at the time of my joining. So I was also thinking कि यार अच्छा हो क्या रहा है,
But I'm also connecting with the 13-year-old Muzaffar and really seeing what was it? What did I need in school at that time?